Good afternoon. I'm Chief Kevin Roberts, Clayton County Police Department, and I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us here to provide some explanation as to the events that took place 2 days ago. About 2 days ago, on June 15 at about 7:15 p.m., our officers were dispatched to a possible person armed in the area of the 500 block of Flint River Road in Jonesboro in Clayton County. The dispatch call advised that the complainant saw subjects inside his store, 4 to 5 black males, one possibly displaying a firearm. Upon our initial officer's arrival, the subjects were gone. That complainant advised that the subjects who were inside the store had left via a path from the store down the backside. The officer, being familiar with the area, was able to leave the store. He actually made contact with the subjects that had been in the store, and knowing that they were armed or possibly armed, he exited his vehicle and pointed his weapon temporarily at these 4 teenagers, later determined, and held them in that capacity until a support unit could arrive for a pat down for weapons. When that support unit arrived, no weapon was found. And if you viewed our body camera footage on the Clayton County Police Department Facebook page, you will see that he escorted those young men back to the store, where video was provided to him by the store clerk indicating that they were in possession of what appeared to be a firearm in the parking lot of that business. Based on that video, he was able to discuss with those young men the whereabouts of the weapon. They led him to the weapon, which was retrieved in the wood line between where they were walking and the store's location. That weapon, of course, was later determined to be a BB gun that looked very realistic upon retrieval. After that interaction, if you review our body camera, the officer, considering the extreme circumstances, was very de-escalating in his approach to the young men. The external noise surrounding the interaction is what was so loud. And what I mean by that is citizens, out of concern, stopped. We have no problem with that. Citizens began to film. We have no problem with that. There's no law against that. But the citizens began to agitate the situation, possibly making these young men feel threatened. I believe the officer did an excellent job of talking to them and calming them and letting them know he didn't want anybody to get hurt. He wanted everybody to go home and to block out the external noise. And if you watch the video, he says, "No gun, we're good, guys. We're good." He escorts them to find that weapon, and a little bit later on in that video, he makes attempts to actually identify the parents and or guardians of these young men. He thought he made contact with them all. Apparently he did not. One of the young men, I believe, indicated that an uncle who had come for another juvenile actually took custody of that one, and the contact was not made with that young man's mother. With that being said, there's a lot of discussion right now about de-escalation techniques. I met with a group of individuals on these very steps yesterday. We had an extended conversation that we posted to our Facebook page, total transparency about the whole thing. And there was a discussion, there needs to be a continued discussion about police and citizen interaction. Make no mistakes about it, the Clayton County Police Department is very transparent in what we do. We're a part of this community. We don't hold a community hostage. And we listen to our community citizens, and we appreciate their input. The initial video that was submitted was, in my opinion, incomplete. And it did not provide total context to the interaction between the officer and the young men involved. The first tagline that I heard about was Clayton County police officer points a weapon at unarmed teens. I just explained to you how the call went out. It was dispatched as at least one person possibly armed. Further investigation did reveal that there was a BB gun that could be perceived as a weapon involved. So there's definitely legitimacy associated with the handling of the call by that police officer. I had meetings yesterday on these steps where folks made demands of me or requested No, they made demands of me to commit to things that we were not ready to commit to. What we are committed to is partnering with the citizens of Clayton County to ensure that we keep them safe. We're committed to discussion, and we're committed to partnership. And I'm always open to dialogue. And with that, I'll open the floor for questions.
After hearing concerns, Jim, Fox 5, after hearing concerns from the residents, and would you have told the officer to do anything different than what he did?
No, I would not. If you watch the video and his interaction, considering the extreme circumstances and the crowd noise outside of his interaction with the young men, his tone was calm but instructive. His directions were clear. He let them know that he wanted everyone to get home safely, including himself. He told them not to listen to everything else that was going on. He said, no gun, we're all good. That's excellent considering the circumstances that he was dispatched to a call with a possible person armed and multiple subjects. I know the topic of discussion is about the ages involved. It is unfortunate that we're having a conversation about teens possibly being armed with weapons, but it happens. It happens a lot, unfortunately. And I totally understand. I have kids, I have grandkids. They will be teens. My kids have been teens. No one wants to see their teenage son or daughter looking down the barrel of a gun, and we as a community have to take steps to ensure that these type of things don't happen as often.
Tracy Spirit, 11 Alive. Viewers responding to our story online have asked if the officer could have used a taser or pointed his gun down when he approached the teens. Was that an option in this case?
If they actually watched our body camera footage, you would notice that upon initial contact, his weapon was pointed at the juveniles. After they began to comply, he lowered his weapon to the low ready position and it was no longer pointed at the teens. And we have to talk about reasonableness as it comes to use of force. I was asked yesterday on the steps about using a taser to engage someone with a possible firearm. That's not a fair request. That's not a fair request at all. Not saying that we know these young men weren't armed, but he did not know. And to ask someone to use a taser when there's a possible firearm present puts you in a losing position already.
Chief Robin Kemp at the Clayton Press.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you mind explaining to people what the proper method of presentation of a weapon is when you encounter a suspect that may be armed?
He demonstrated it on that video. If you have reason to believe that the person you're engaging in a high-risk situation is armed, my weapon is either going to be on that subject or at the low ready, which this officer reduced to once he gained compliance from the teenagers.
Chief Charles with 11 Alive.
Yes, sir.
What grade would you give this officer on de-escalating that situation?
A+.
Why is that?
For all the reasons I just said. His presentation, his interaction with the young men involved, he blotted out everything around him. He gave clear directions. He encouraged them to blot out the crowd noise. And then at the end, when there was a determination that no weapon was found, they moved on through this investigation, and it appears that there's a teaching moment going on. It appears that this officer is speaking with these young men not in a way to demean them, disrespect them, but to educate them on the dangers of handling weapons or things that appear like real weapons.
Chief, if your son had been among those boys, would you have been satisfied with the officer's response?
I would have been satisfied with the officer's response, and me and my son would be having an engagement.
And you mentioned a conversation yesterday on the steps. Is anything else being done right now to build a relationship with the people who live in this area where this happened? We're in constant engagement in Clayton County with our community. We've had responses from our citizens that echoed that sentiment. This leadership team represents communication and partnership, and will continue that. Even on the steps of headquarters yesterday,
I offered the opportunity for dialogue as demands were thrust upon me. So yes, we're always open to communication and dialogue.
Chief, what do you think bystander, if another situation like this should come up, what is your advice to the community who is seeing something like this happen? What would you tell them?
I always advocate for bystanders to be good witnesses, but to not interfere, especially if you're not totally aware of all the circumstances. And you always have the option of calling 911 to gain further information or to get a response from supervision out on the scene. But to agitate the situation can sometimes create a situation where things get worse very quickly. And I'm glad this didn't happen.
Chief, did you speak with any of the parents? Have they spoken with you?
I have not yet spoken with the parents, but during our dialogue yesterday out on the steps, I agreed to meet with these young men and their parents, and we have a citizen who was out on the steps that's going to coordinate that meeting. Most of the day was spent yesterday trying to compile the body camera footage for release to provide true context as to what actually went on in its entirety.
Chief, what do you think the perception of the Clayton County community is of the police department right now?
Our reputation with our community still stands, I think, well. What we have at work here is a lot of external forces passing judgment when they don't know this community, they don't know this police department, but I welcome them to learn as I did yesterday. We have a great Citizens Police Academy. I think more citizens, not only in Clayton County but abroad, really need to learn what services their law enforcement community provides. It creates greater understanding, and it also creates an opportunity for them to question the operations and policies of the agencies that serve them in their community. With that, thank you for coming. Have a good day.